Performing from my book, Tidal Fury. There'll be a break about halfway through because we'll all need a rest. And I kind of dress, this is one of the characters. There's a couple of characters in Tidal Fury. There's the monsieur who actually never appears in the writing, but to whom the writing is written. And the Medusa, who is the muse, terrifying, but very powerful muse. And there's an older narcissistic woman who just criticizes everybody. She's very caustic. And none of these characters have a speaking voice, just the narrator of the poem, but there's actually development through the book with each of these three themes. So I begin at the beginning. And I started writing this book at FEMA, and I was there yesterday sitting at the very same table I'd been sitting at when the rain started outside. So I just remember writing those words while I was sitting there with my laptop in trap. The sky trapped in clouds, the air heavy with words, the weight of droplets that sleet earthwards, crystals breaking on pavements, streaming on windows. The day steamy damp. I tap on a laptop by the window of an Italian cafe, sipping cappuccino. I am writing to him. A woman attacks my writing as obscure. Her target was someone else. Still, the arrows, the marks. The woman, her odd responses, the ceaselessness of her words. I am haunted by the woman. The communities I post in, flocks of birds flying in scattered formation. Today, mon cher, I am not good with words. Describe her? I trace patterns in her writing, read her braille of air. We surf where the screen becomes a brine of glass and posts open and close like visions, where writing is an ocean continually closing over itself. Her paragraphs are long drawn out. Words encroach. Waves dissolve, sand, the shore. She is a rising tide. My screen splashes with spilling breakers. Oh, imagine her. Her hair like seaweed drawn back loosely with wisps lining the face. I've never seen her or looked at a photograph. She wears veils of words that obscure sea sprays, a forcefulness that surprise. I use the imagery of water, monsieur, but the metaphors shift and leave the desolate shore and come into the city of words, to her house where she moves like an exotic figment of fabric and skin. She rustles, a blackness of cloth and red. Rhinestone glint brooch of a poppy, beaded rose earrings like Native American dream catchers, or that ruby rising out of a ring of melted cast sun on hands woven with pale veins and the delicacy of a musician's fingers. Open her closet on the floor, red canvas tennis shoes, ginger petal satin slippers, ruby patent leather heels, flaming red slick knee-high boots, on the shelf a vinyl scarlet belt, crimson sash of silk, a vermilion hat, dragging down the white wall like Barnett Newman's Lima Sabachthani series, a funerary dirge of black dresses, a heavy curtain of silk, cotton, rayon, corduroy, and wool hung on shellacked cedar hangers. Her garden is untended and unweeded like writing that chokes. Think musty red pomegranates split and decaying, or Aubrey Beardsley's version of Oscar Wilde's Salome, but aged with white skin and the blood-red splashes that are uniquely hers. Florid perfume and compost. Her writing resembles a mass of cut flowers, some dying, some bursting forth, floral with dark passion. Salt swirls, leaches the soil, dying follows her. She's in a difficult economic situation. How she came to penury is a story that grows stranger with each telling. The publications she wrote for, autumnal leaves that fell and floated away. But she fishes and scales mercilessly what's caught. Is she a victim or a perpetrator? I don't know. Are there any true stories? An onrush of waves from the sky, the ocean, salt water spills in my mouth. Help me break free of the undertow, monsieur, I beseech you. Why does she silence us, I and the others? She speaks in the diminutive, sarcasm of a seaward parrot, words twisted in the ruffle of virid and cinnabar feathers inside the sharp beak. She beleaguers my labored writing. For a fertile slope for my Sisyphean ball of letters instead of this ocean of caustic words. Why can't I turn and go elsewhere where welcomes wait? Monsieur, your beloved. Clipped. A sea of turbulent words, la mer. I know this woman who is a stranger. I read my past into her, and I ask how to stop when the virid, the cinnabar. I am under wing clipped. When she imagines insects rising from a hole in my belly, when she screams, when she cannot forget, when I am deprived of the power of speaking. Undercover, your writing draws me in, monsieur. You breathe words into me, hot, intimate. I slide under the covers of those words, where longa pulsates, where lives are assembled, disassembled, reassembled, where poetry is born. Interlacing, connecting, where we fall in love or enwrapped. Polarity. I cannot not struggle with words. Why is it easy to constrict the writing voice with harsh criticism, the shivering? The bed is delineated and unkempt. They prefer opposite sides, a talking head and the simmering passion of angst, and deep meditation on the ambiguities, paradoxes, and fleetingness of life, love. Can we extrude these polarities? The bed floats in the void, white sheets against darkness, one side cold and still, the other inflamed and sliding away. The critic tabulates, clutching the fingers of poetic impulse, or lets them slide away, singed wing of an angel. Conjunctions. I imagine you, monsieur, baggy paint-splattered shirt, stripping walls, sanding baseboards and wainscoting, smoothly slapping colors from soft and trained bristles onto walls, layers covering the inside of your house, stopping to rest by the ladder, standing, breathing latex fumes. Your speckled canvas runners on the speckled floor of protective canvas, thinking about life, women, the meaning of the conjunctions in the stars. You are painting your walls cinnabar red and ferret green. Sweet life. The only man, un autore, who speaks of love kills those he loves most at close range. His children behind white, billowing diaphanous curtains. A man seated in his black leather armchair, in his black suit himself. We should learn to love each other so much we live outside time, he said, Steiner in La Dolce Vita. Who can love in a world in which money must be made? The film is from a man's perspective. It is the women who speak of love if love is spoken of, especially Marcello's fierce, suicidal, and beautiful girlfriend, for whom love is possessive. Even those whose lives overflow with money don't know what to do with love either. Fellini knows this. Love wants to hold, to keep forever in its grip, but it's all feathers. Clouds of pillows become unstuffed. We are tarred with our desires. What we are seeking are endings. Hybrid. She finds seagull feathers. She tars my words. Dead eyes watch us. The flat hybrid fish at the end of La Dolce Vita, she sent it to silence us, to take our words into its mouth, to be swallowed. Unraveling. Words fly from the edges of clouds, fleeing the sky. Airborne texts, secret skywriting, Dakini decrees. It could be loose feathers or the luminescence of angels fleeing a sky they never leave. The birds fly in V formation, then scatter chaotically, joining the others in random orbit. Feathers fall to earth. Black, gray, white, some are virid and cinnabar. Unblinking eye. We are filmed in the store, on the street, at the bank. It never stops. The eye that doesn't weep, the unblinking eye. Warhol's unblinking eye. Welcome Tom Gannon Hamilton. I'm so happy he's here to accompany me. So I'll just start that stanza again, not the piece. Hi, hi, hi. Good. Yeah. Okay, so, I'll just start the piece again, Unblinking Eye. We are filmed at the store, on the street, in the bank. It never stops. The unblinking eye, the eye that doesn't weep. Warhol's unblinking eye. In his factory studio, a camera continuously filmed the corner where the black couch was. In the clips, we see a naked, gyrating woman, her breasts, their pale veins, the nipples in the light, a pubic hair disappearing into the crux, her undulating hips, while a man polishes his motorcycle nearby without noticing her. Or the two naked men, one on top of the other, humping for hours, while someone moves in front, sweeps the floor, and the man polishes his motorcycle. No one watches or cares. Only the unblinking eye filming. The unblinking eye without ethic. Perhaps only the eye that weeps finds ethos, pathos. Do we weep before the accident victims Warhol blew up from newspaper shots into wall-sized silkscreen repeating images that fade out? Who are the anonymous dead people? Without the narratives of their lives, they could be anyone, us. We gaze, we do not weep. Braille. You are a figment, monsieur. I gaze on you blindly. Your words massage my breasts, my throat. I write you into my book because you are here, marks on the page. We intuit the contours. Memoirs of an imaginal life. When I lost my sight, I could see. I drew a calligraphy of letters, a braille of seeing. These words are not visible. Read them to me now. Scroll. When he couldn't speak, he wrote. What did he say? I don't know, I've forgotten. The sheets are in a blue zipper folder, pages lined with blue felt pen, in the filing cabinet, crammed into the storage unit. All the cards of condolences are there too. Without his glasses, he couldn't see what he wrote. Notes to his daughter. She kept them. Blue felt lines like a bodice over a constricted rib cage. Lip read. The silencers. I learned to lip read. You read me in my absence. You occur in my language of sight. Writings of who? I seek who allows me to write. In the sunlit corridors, perhaps, an encounter with my eclipsed twin who answers through this writing. Who haunts us from within? Who is the narrator conversing with me in these words that I relate to you as we converse? Who haunts us from within? Who is writing? Surely not our speaking voice. Poetry evokes us like the gradual lightening of dawn. If the trope of light didn't burn, corrode our vision, that is. Sometimes I want to keep my secrets secret. Down the dark corridors of time, our shadows cast into the future. Doors open and close and open, the spurious wind blowing through. Shutters cannot stay shut. We are ghosts moving through ourselves, haunted by ourselves. Can we have thoughtless words, a discourse bereaved of its cry, inflamed? Was it the dried apricots, prunes, dark chocolate discs, Guinness draft beer, muesli, and raw sugar fermenting? The late hour, I became ill. I clicked on the wrong tab. It all disappeared. Poetry cannot be rewritten. Will what surface from the currents of words reappear, or like a melted iceberg gone, become ocean? All that remains is the title. How are we to face each other? Out in the day, lightheaded, I ache, still swimming in the emotional storm of last week. The emailing, the words, the silences, the decisions, the loss. Incomprehensible on the edge of. Aren't they all edges, and where is? Letter in saffron. I write from the corner of a Parsi restaurant. that drew me after city blocks of walking to the warmth of its Indian colors and curtained light. Under my plate, an orange flower radiates out from the white stitching under the clear plastic. It matches the saffron rice. I pour a thin drizzle of gold olive oil and then lime juice over the salad. Before me, a kebab, sour cream, stewed tomatoes, and rice. I toast you, monsieur, with mellow wine and watch the babies of two Indian couples. They sit in high chairs. They utter rudimentary word sounds. Blah! Ma! 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 With joyful loud. Their mothers in white sweatsuits shh and point. Wide brown eyes look at me. The men, starched white shirts, dark business suits, sit and talk only to each other. Is marriage a turbulent stone that she holds onto in the thrashing water, monsieur, trying to keep energies contained? The Parsi woman at work showed me her wedding dress of white lace and how afterwards she would wear a honey mustard sari sewn through with gold threads. Saffron everywhere. This letter is composed of threads of saffron. Remember the night when you, without closure, engulfed me, when I disappeared into your vastness, became lost in you, lost I, everywhere you touched, mountains, valleys, plains, even the ocean in me parted, shook, opened. Do you remember how we, two sighs enfolded in each other? Breath of love. I speak of romance tonight, monsieur, please forgive me. Afterwards we did not speak of it. The surface of the water that resists before you fall in, that edge of sweetness. Now, mon amour, it is like sitting in a darkened room with a screen of scenes before us, our hands close but not touching. You are so far away. Grammars. You are an invisible character, monsieur. You're a reference outside the writing to whom the writing was written. Your eyes read as the reader's reads. You know, you were conceived as a literary device. And then I discovered we knew each other intimately. We meet at the edge of the text. Words unfold through your absent presence in the writing. Exile. Those of whom I speak, monsieur, are embedded in grammars too. As syntaxes and lexicons of unique verbal patterns, we are bound by a grammar of relationships which binds us, which shapes us. The man who teaches pedagogy says what we must never do: patronize, reduce, laud, ridicule, dismay, simplify, bowdlerize, censure, censor, or silence each other. We humiliate those we silence. If we refuse to listen, they cannot speak. If they speak, they will not be heard. We have created a hole in the grammar of our connection that divests the speaker who we do not want to listen to of a speaking voice that is heard. I know, monsieur, it happened to me. What happened? Exile. And two small pieces and we'll have a break. Afatos, unspeaking, not speakable. Unspeaking, we speak. The making mute. If we don't hear each other, how can we listen? And put Tistas, power, where I was cast off. Power, the ability to do. Power, being believed. We watch ourselves with internalized surveillance. How are we shaped by that which we wish to be accepted by? And when we come back, we're going to take a 5-minute break. You'll come back to Medusa. So 5-minute break now. I'm just so happy you're all here. It's fabulous. It's wonderful. Okay, Tom, I'm gonna get started with Spectre. You can put it. She walks the seawall, a parade of black. Dresses, pants, suits, with flashes of red. The ribbon and feather in her black fedora. Her white face, black hair, and lurid red lipstick, a specter. When she gazes at us, beating warmth of our blood, we cannot escape our unblinking gaze. The straining eye resembles the eye of the blind, says Derrida, and sometimes the eye of the dead. In that precise moment when morning begins, it is still open before a pious hand should soon come to close it. It would resemble a portrait of the dying. She trails the sea wall, the curls in her hair coiling in the sea spray, and turns us to marble. Pale green veins in the rock, and splatters us with red, the color of her fingernail polish. The Gorgon creates a cast of unmoving characters, her silent companions. My drained creativity. The blood drains from my lips. I am silenced. I mute. Stony glance. Inner lashing waves. Salt tears. Her parrot, virid and cinnabar feathers, mocks endlessly, repeating the soulless words on the sea spray while she laughs. It is we are. I want to become a tidal wave, but I withdraw. Describe the figure of derision, of jealousy? Is jealousy the overweening desire to upstage the other, to cast them out, stones of silence? I avoid her stony glance with questions. Polishing the rocks. Barrage of surf, fear holds me captive. Like the Eight of Swords in the tarot, bound and blindfolded, scared and unseeing, though all the swords are stuck blade first in the ground. But it's not a question of safety, monsieur. It's a lifelong problem with creativity. I have, she has. I split myself into a third person, a she. Does it matter who swirls in the disappearing foam? Doesn't matter who swirls in the salt spray. It's disappearing foam. Is the invisible rendered visible through our perceptions? I am the subject. I dare not look upon myself lest I turn into bloodless reflection. In the mirror, the Medusa, her unblinking gaze. The object of the subject is the subject. Only in the self-portrait does the ruin of the self break down. We are decomposing into text, into iconography, immortalizing ourselves through time, broken stones among the rubble of the hissing of the broiling waves. The Medusa. Can you know the depths of the anguish, monsieur? Deep in the grammar of the self-word unravels, defies linguistic coherency, being forced to look with unblinking eyes, terror of catatonia, this self-portrait. A work is at once order and its ruin, and these weep for one another. My head unwraps in the mirror like a ribbon or writhing snake. This writing, is it risk-taking? Am I subverting myself in this emotional storm of words? Apollo rising, full of pride, held out the head of the Medusa to this grotesquely uncouth Dionysian power. Nietzsche sees the Medusa as a figure of death between them, says Derrida. She who turns life into art with her gaze, flesh becomes stone, pigment, pixel, celluloid, the immortalizer who kills us. I weep on an altar of rainbow serpents, on shed skin. The coils in my jewel-studded hair cut a mass of deathly serpent eyes. On the beach. Polished pebbles, smooth glass baubles, tangled fishing wire, waterlogged boots, translucent shells chipped, mollusks and sea urchins, dead cadaverous detritus swollen along the glimmering band of sand. I see her on sea walks. She gazes out to sea, grief on her face wet from the spray of the rocks that she stands on, and something indefinable, lit from within, but subtle, like sunset spilling out of her eyes. But the coast is empty. I don't know who I am. Me, her, you, or a transfigured god, a Medusa lady, the curls in my hair coiling in the sea spray, an image maker. Blue dancers leap and fall, disappearing bubbles of sea foam. You are the edge of the waves that tip over when the peak cannot hold itself aloft and falls like a dancer letting go of taut tension and plunging. Or perhaps it is words that fall into froth. We stand on the shore of oceans that encompass the earth. Let me bathe in your words, salt rinsing raw passion, our vision infinite as the skyline. Am I in love with you? And who, my unbidden holy muse? Leaving time. A few days ago, mid-evening, a moment in my meditation, where I disappeared. When I came back, I knew I had been gone. It wasn't a moment of sleep. Was it an experience of obliteration, of no self, no individuality. Everything I am was gone in those few minutes. Even the consciousness that tracks experience was absent. Does it threaten when someone leaves time? This then, insanity or love. And there was a quote that began that poem. It was from Peter Hoag's The Borderliner about people who leave time. And he says, time is something we are constantly involved in creating, like a work of art. I really recommend that book. Okay, so tidal patterns. This is based on a Timsian story that I read to my children when they were young. When I was writing this book, it kind of percolated up through my consciousness, and I just hope it's okay to tell it through the narrator of Tidal Fury. So it adheres to the story completely, but it's got edges of poetry that are part of the themes of Tidal Fury. Once the tide remained high. Without clams or seaweed, the Timsian went hungry. Raven knew what lay under the blue, glistening robes of water. When he wrapped his blanket of black feathers around his strong shoulders, he flew. Scanning the edges of the ocean, he found her. Tightly, she held I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Okay, so he found her. Tightly, she held the tide line in her hands. She would not release the ocean to rhythmically rise and fall or draw back from the beach, leaving washed treasures. Clams, seaweed, shells, and polished pebbles. Why did the old woman hold the tide line so tightly in her hands? Lodged on the edge of the ocean, she grasped the tide line in the lifelines on her palms. Who can tell from the mass of mounds and lines on her hands how the old woman bid the edges of the great water be still? Inside her sun-bleached house, with closed eyes, she imagined the ocean or saw it with visionary sight. She sat, the tide line, her hands, the one interconnected with the other, like a fisherman's net, weeping tears of salt. Raven dropped from the sky, a shadow of black feathers. He sat beside her and groaned, holding his belly, saying he had eaten too many clams. He broke her meditation. And she stood and went to look at the clams, but he pushed her and she fell, and he poured sand in her eyes so she was blinded. Pulling the tide line, ripping the lifeline from her, he released the hold on the waters, and the tide at last fell. Crazy old woman on the edge of time, time's burden, that weight of life-giving water. And so the ocean drew back its mantle of blue robes, and the people feasted. There were bonfires on the beaches and a festival of clam bakes that lasted days until everyone's bellies were swollen with food. Raven in raucous joviality, passing from one feasting party to the next. No, I'm going to go back again. I'm starting to get... Everyone's bellies were swollen with food. Who was the blind old woman crying on the beach with the torn hands? Raven, in raucous joviality, passing from one feasting party to the next, found himself before the old woman who spoke. Raven, heal my eyes so I may see again. Raven, trickster figure, Promethean fire stealer, knew the gods must be bargained with, appeased. So he struck a deal. Old woman of the sea, I will heal you, but you must promise to let the tide line go twice a day. She agreed. So he rinsed the sand out of her eyes. Thus Raven ensured the lifelines of the people, their continuity. As I walk the desolate beach, strewn with empty clamshells, I want to find her, to find out why the withholding. But I spin like Tiresias under an unrelenting sun. Why are black feathers strewn in my hair? My eyes, gritty and sore, are on fire. I see only flaring volcanoes, a red rage of light. On this windless day, how did my eyes fill with sand? My hands bleed as I write. For whom do I weep? Escaping time. My words silt in the paddies of time, flooded with being. Escape time, leave the encircling fields of centuries, plummet silence, breathe without tracking calibration rates or seizures. Pythia, priestess of Apollo, step onto a floor of hissing snakes, locked for the night in an underground cavern. Remain mute as a statue for the priestesses to find you alive in the morning. The fumes of the python enable us to foresee. Allow the snakes to slither over your body, for it is damp and chilly in the underground caves, and they are cold-blooded, without response, fear, shaking, or terror. Remain rigid, and you will be safe. You will survive if you know how. You cannot sleep. You may not awaken. If they bite, your blood enraged with poison, your throat swollen shut. You may scream, but like being entombed in stone sarcophagi, no sound emerges. If a tiny young snake jabs your skin with its sharp tooth and releases venom from its sac into your bloodstream, you may survive. If it is a large, older snake, you will not. You hallucinate them. The walls of the tunneled layers are empty. You hear gliding. They have been starved for this night. In the darkness, they smell you. They wrap around your ankles and wrists, waist and neck, across your forehead, savoring your warmth. Medusa has come and gone, her hair of hissing, like a landlady of the Omphalos, with a secret initiation of the adept in her basement. They sit on a tripod, breathing venomous vapor, answering questions, all having survived a night in the depths of the snake caves. the oracles of Delphi. And there's no historical fact to any of that. It was purely my macabre imagination. Dance of the Sarong. Just a couple more poems. Wrapping raw silk around my shoulders, torso, breasts, and head. I dance like a slave, seeking a freedom that is terrifying, with nothing to constrain you, contain, fetter, weigh. What would you do? Who would you be? Can we ignore being watched, read, observed, judged about the unceasing gaze of the other? Who would we be? What would we do? In what ways do we keep each other in check, clipped, chained, trapped? We push elbows against the tight fabric and turn and fall and gyrate our self-imposed prisons. In shades of blue, the sarong echoes the burqa, dress code of societies that contain the energies of women, binding them. Images shape our dance. Ancient Egyptian mummies, tortured victims, Michelangelo slaves, enslavements from without and the ways we enslave ourselves within. I dance a life struggle. Fighting for release along the wall. Private anguish is visible. In an invisibility that gives us the freedom to fight for inner freedom. When the dance is over, we peel off the sarongs like ribbons of skin and sit in the circle wondering if any of us is closer to who we are. Strengthen. Instead of fleeing into fissures, withdrawing into a shell, masking with silence, remaining while rushing away, the wave rose high, surging in sunlight, milky green underside, proud and defended. This one's called Chthonic, and then there'll be 2 short poems after that about writing. Almost. Soft cotton sarong in wide swaths of orange plum, cream and simmering moons. Became a snake with many eyes. I know by the way it winds around my neck while I sway on the dance floor. Serpents of protection. Do I hallucinate? Gold snakes cling, pour over my swaying arms while I shimmy and gyrate the sensuous rhythms of flute and sitar. I am possessed. I hold earth light. I am possessed. The writhing waterfall of coppery snake stream. I hold earth lightning in my hands like a Minoan snake goddess. I can't stop dancing. I haven't finished. I writhe and undulate and shimmy like a whirling wind, a belly dancer, a dakini, a dervish, a lady of serpents. Everywhere they coil and slither, an energy of creativity that persists despite inner dissensions, the envy of the other. The face of envy on the dance floor is a mass of dry, dead hair, an austere, thin frame, without sensuality or warmth, the cruelty exposed. Its breath re-inhaled, the fumes, powerless to prevent, incapable of damaging, useless flap of useless motion, rendered impotent, powerless. Today, the dictator died. The despot is deposed. The cries and laughter of freedom rise to the skies. And I wrote that the day Pinochet, dictator of Chile in the 70s and 80s, who tortured, interned, disappeared, and murdered many people. So it was Pinochet, the dictator, as well as the inner dictator, and two short pieces about writing, because Tidal Fury very much is about finding the writing voice, and despite everything, and there's an ecstasy in becoming the poet that you are, I guess. Inscribe, soft slip of flesh etched in stone under the writer's hand. And insomnia, when I obsessed about writing, the way I do a lover, I stopped sleeping. Now I keep a notebook, its white sheets beside me, to write blindly in the night with a pencil without seeing. Words flow between the imaginal and the real, shaping, reflecting. All day, tired and euphoric, such nights of intense lovemaking. Thank you. Thank you so much to Tom Gannon Hamilton. He's amazing. He's given so much to all of us in the community. Thank you.
Great dancer.